Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Teacher Ilona, and to my wonderful subscribers, welcome back to my channel. So today's video, we are looking at grade 10, the market environment. So stay tuned and I really hope you enjoy. For this video, I would just like to mention that I have made use of online resources and I have added them in my description below as well as at the end of the slides. So I take no credit from the information in these slides as I have obtained them from online resources as government notes. I make sure to use the notes as is for the reason that I don't want to change the content as studied in business studies to make sure you're getting the relevant and the correct information to study for your tests and exams. If you would like to download these resources, they are being made available online for free and you can follow the link below to download them. If you like this video, I hope you subscribe and enjoy. Right, so let's get started. Should I look a little bit down? It's just because I'm looking at the slides from a different screen that's a little bit lower than my camera. All right, the market environment. So let's look at a little bit of revision from all the environments. So which environments do we have? We've got the micro, the market, and the macro. So we are going to dive into the market environment today, but I think it's important that we just take a recap of the others as well. So important to remember the micro environment. We have full control, and this is inside the business. So businesses have full control over the features, elements, and components of the microenvironment. So here we're looking at the mission, the organizational structure, and the resources. If you want more information for that video, follow the link above. The market environment, the one we're discussing today. There is little and limited control. Businesses have little control over all the features and the elements and the components of the market environment. Remembering the market is outside. It does include a bit of inside, but it's more the outside environment. So example here, a business cannot force its suppliers to reduce the prices of their goods, but what they can do is buy in bulk and then they can get discounts. Then the macro environment, which will be the next video I'll be uploading. Here we have no control, and this is fully outside of the business. So we have no control over the features, elements, and components of the macro environment. So for example, businesses cannot control the increase of the price in petrol announced by the Central Energy Fund, but they can outsource the transportation function to reduce the delivery costs. So, defining the market environment. The market environment refers to the immediate external components that directly affect the ability of the business to operate. So for the business to be successful, it must be able to influence these components in the environment. So the components include, let's look at the ones on the right. So at the bottom in the blue, we've got consumers/customers. We've got our suppliers, we've got our intermediaries, our competitors, and then the final one is our other organizations and our civil society. So then we're looking at community-based organizations, non-governmental organizations, regulators, strategic allies, and unions. So we're going to dive into each one of these components and discuss them in further detail. But these five are very, very important to remember. You could be asked to name the five in the test or exam, or to name and describe each one of them. So highlight this one as very, very important. So customers. Customers refer to individuals or other businesses that purchase products and services from a business. Consumers are the final users of the product. The market is the new and old customers who have money to buy goods and services. Customers' preferences and tastes do change as time goes by. So it is essential for businesses to conduct market research to ensure that their target market's changing needs are continuously being met. If customers are not happy with the product or service of a business, they will turn to a competitor. So our customers, the core base of our business wouldn't exist without them. We could create a business, but it wouldn't be sustainable. If no one's buying our products, we're not making a profit. So it's very important to recognize who our customers are, for one, that's our target market, and then to see what are their needs and wants, and then to satisfy those needs and wants. And as it mentions that customers' preferences will change. So perhaps you've got let me think of an example quick. A company that sells soft toys. And maybe that worked back in the 90s or the early 2000s. But then, for example, let's say from 2010 onwards, people are not buying soft toys for their kids. They may be buying more educational toys and blocks and building blocks, and technology has obviously taken over as well in that sector. So you need to make sure what I'm selling, am I going to continuously meet my competitors' wants and needs? Otherwise, will I continue meeting our customers' needs and wants? Otherwise, they'll go to a competitor and they'll go buy from them instead. So that's where the market research is also very, very, very important. And then just remembering, if you're asked to describe what a customer is, it's a person that buys products and services. And in this case, it's from our business. Our suppliers. Suppliers are individuals or other businesses that provide or supply businesses with inputs or resources that they need in order to produce or manufacture their product or service. If suppliers fail to provide businesses with the quality resources or inputs, or if the suppliers do not deliver these resources or inputs on time or at the right prices, then the businesses will not be able to meet their goals and objectives. Businesses need to ensure that they identify reliable suppliers in the market. Businesses can establish a good relationship with their suppliers by signing long-term contracts for their raw materials at fixed prices. So our suppliers, where our goods are coming from. So it mentioned they produce or manufacture. So perhaps we've got suppliers that are supplying ready to sell goods. So we're a clothing store and they are supplying us with clothing, dresses and t-shirts and pants and whatever. So they're supplying us with the ready-made clothes and we are a retailer selling them. That's one example. Another example is a wood shop. They are supplying us with the wood, then we are making the furniture and then we give it to someone to sell, or we sell it on site. So those are the two different type of businesses that you can have as well. And we can also be suppliers. Perhaps we're a company that supplies to other companies, just as an example, just to make you guys think a little bit further and out of the box. But here we're speaking about where we're getting our goods from. So suppliers, who is supplying us with the goods. So we need to make sure that there's a good relationship between us and our suppliers. Also, remembering that there's a bit of competition when it comes to suppliers as well. So perhaps when we're looking for the clothing, there are suppliers that are more expensive and there's suppliers that's cheaper, but we need to factor in the quality. If we take a silly example, the wood example, because there everything's the same. Clothing, it could be different styles, different textures. So let's look at the wood example. Perhaps there are suppliers that are very expensive. They sell their wood for very expensive, but it's the same wood as what we could get from supplier B. So we need to make sure that we also do our research there to make sure that we're getting them at an affordable price, because we still need to add markup onto our product before selling it. And we need to make sure that we have reliable suppliers. So you can't have it that the arrangement is that they come every single Monday to drop off and do the deliveries. And you've told your customers deliveries get done on a Monday. So we are out of stock, but come Tuesday, Wednesday, we will have stock. And then your suppliers don't arrive continuously. Things do happen. There are certain times where I think concession can be given, But continuously, if they keep not bringing it on time, it's going to affect your customers. And if your customers then get upset, they can go to a different competitor, and that affects the business. So you need to make sure that you pick the right suppliers, as mentioned in that as well. Then the intermediaries. These are individuals or businesses that distribute and sell products or services of a business. Intermediaries, they bridge the gap between producers and consumers. So these include our wholesalers, our retailers, our agents, our brokers, transportation services. Some intermediaries assist businesses with packaging and advertising of their products. So here's examples of intermediaries. We're looking at Spar, Pick n Pay, Big Daddy. I'm not sure we have that in South Africa, but that's an example there. Woolworths and CNA. So those are the intermediaries. All right, so those intermediaries, remember, they're the middleman. So we need to make sure that we're also keeping them happy and that things are being arrived on time. So there's the important details with the intermediaries. Then our competitors. Our competitors refer to businesses or organizations that provide or sell more or less of the same goods and services. Businesses will be forced to offer quality products or services at the lowest possible prices, or else they will lose their customers to their competitors. Businesses should monitor the activities of their competitors so that they can produce goods or services that are of better quality than their competitors. Examples of competitors. We have Spar and ShopRite, Woolworths and Truworths, Vodacom and MTN. Then we have new entrants into the market. Okay, so here we're also looking at the power of the suppliers. There are the following Porter's 5 forces that will influence the competition. So we've got power of consumers, threats of substitutes in the products and services, competitive rivalry. Competition is beneficial to customers because it keeps prices down. So competitors, those are people, as mentioned, that they sell similar or the same product. So when thinking about grocery stores, we've got so many different types. We've got Woolworths, we've got Spar, Pick n Pay, Checkers, ShopRite. So there's lots of examples. And the thing is, you can get the same product at each of those stores. There may be differences. Each one of those stores do have their own house brand. So they've got their own house brand. So Woolworths has a Woolworths brand and Pick n Pay's got a Pick n Pay brand, which is slightly cheaper than the other brands that they offer there. But like that, it's very important. So now you get certain people who will only go to Pick n Pay because they like Pick n Pay. Some people, maybe it's because it's close and convenient. Others, maybe they had a bad experience with one of the competitors. So it all depends, and it could be because of convenience, it could be because of price, maybe perhaps preference. They just prefer the way that, let's say, Woolworths stocks their shop. All of these are just examples that I'm making use of just to make you guys try and remember them and give examples. So that's important to remember, and remembering that we are competing against them and that we want to maximize our profits. That's the point of business. That's where we start. We want to make a profit and maximize our profits. So it's important to recognize, first of all, who are the competitors. And then also to, if possible, get a price check to see how much are they selling products and services. And then to remain competitive with them. So that's where they talk about competitive advantage. So if you got a competitive advantage versus the others. So I remember years ago in Santon Huawei side, I went to a Pick n Pay there where they had a machine that would print recipes for free. So that creates a competitive advantage, because when I'm going to the shop and maybe I don't know what to make for supper, I can quickly go and look and say, oh yes, I would like to make shepherd's pie, for example. I print the recipe, and while I'm there, I've got a list of the ingredients, so I can buy it there. So there's that convenience. There are some spas that have a sushi bar, and there's also Woolworths that have a Woolworths cafe. So these things help the competition and the businesses to remain competitive. So those things are important, and to also see what makes you stand out. What is going to make a customer come to your shop versus the other shop that sells the exact same thing? That's what you need to remember, and the experience that comes with it as well. Then Porter's 5 forces. So the power of the consumers. Remember, we can influence our consumers, but we can't force them to buy from us. So the power sits with the consumers. They decide where they want to go shop, and they decide. We can influence it, as mentioned, by having sales, by having specials and deals, maybe a loyalty program where they get points. So those things can influence it, but remember, we at the end of the day can't tell the consumers where to go shop. Then there are the threat of substitute products. So perhaps I have a product and there's a substitute for it, and then the consumers rather go to buy those products. So just remembering that too. And then, as I mentioned, the competitive rivalry, and it's nice for the consumers because it keeps prices down because they're all trying to remain competitive. Then there are other organizations that form part of the market environment. Before I get into this, I just want to mention the ones that we've mentioned already. So remembering that we have little to no control over these, but we can influence them. So when talking about the suppliers, when talking about the intermediaries and the competitors, all those, for example, we can influence, but we can't control them. So that's what's important to remember with the market environment versus the micro environment where we had full control. So the other organizations, these include organizations or institutions that have formed by individuals or members of the community who have mobilized their resources to provide some essential goods and services to the community without charging them for these goods and services. These organizations or institutions play a key role in the community, especially in areas where the public sector has failed to provide these goods. So here's another diagram for this one too. So in this section, we've got the following as mentioned. We've got the community-based organizations. We've got the non-governmental organizations, the regulators, the strategic allies, and the unions. Let's look at them. Community-based organizations, CBOs, are established to assist the community with job creation, social economic development, and becoming self-sufficient. They are social organizations that operate in the community to provide social services with the aim of social upliftment. So they focus on the following economic issues: HIV and AIDS, unemployment, crime, and illiteracy. So I know there are a few social committees that they have it's like a crime group. So it's actually part of the community. It's a community-based policing forum. I think that's what it is, yes. So they patrol in the area and they volunteer. So they patrol in areas where they've got their own vehicle. They just have all the advertisements and stickers on the side. But they actually patrol in the area to try and keep the area safe. And those are by residents that are doing that. So that is a good example in this one, is that they're not being paid by the government or by the citizens. They are doing it free of charge, and it's just to uplift and to better the community in the form to help prevent crime. Non-governmental organizations, NGOs. These are non-profit organizations that operate separately from the government. They are established to fulfill important needs in the community by addressing some socio-economic issues. They are part of the market environment because they supply consumer goods and services, and they are concerned about the welfare of others. So normally these are started by individuals. So I know of an orphanage, that's an NGO, where they take in kids and look after them, they care for them. This lady I knew a few years ago, she actually looked after 11 kids at one stage. So she would it would be an overflow from the welfare, and the kids would come stay. She converted her house for the kids to stay there. She sent them to school. She even had transportation for the kids. She had activities for them, and she hired ladies to look after these kids. But she never made any money from this. It was just from donations and the community helping out and donating clothes, donating food, and donating money perhaps for the schooling. So there's an example of an NGO. So it's important to remember that they are non-profit. So they are not there to make a profit, just to assist with the community, but that they are a registered company. Regulators. Regulators are government bodies that make rules and regulations to control the activities of businesses. These rules and regulations are put in place to ensure that businesses do not exploit their consumers or employees. So examples here, we're looking at the South African Bureau of Standards and the Airports Company South Africa. Okay, so these are just regulating bodies. So the SABS, that is the standard. So if you go look in your cupboard and you go look at, I know, all gold tomato sauce and any of your perishables, they normally have the logo. It's like a little square that says SABS on it. And that means that they have been approved by the South African Bureau of Standards. So it's just to make sure that everything is on standard and that it's not harming customers in any way, because perhaps the food that we're buying is actually not good for us and not healthy for us. It has to go through the South African Bureau of Standards first. So that's the purpose of the regulating bodies. And then the unions. These are established bodies that protect the interest of workers. They have the right to call for industrial action such as strikes or go-slows if their demands are not met by the organizations or by the government. They constantly negotiate for better wages and salaries for their members and also safeguard their members against unfair dismissals. They also negotiate for better working conditions for their members and may represent them during a disciplinary hearing. So most companies do have unions, and you can form part of a trade union. You even get unions, I think this is dealt with a little bit later in business studies, but you get unions for different sectors. So you get a union for mine workers, you get a union for teachers. So there are different unions that someone can form part of, and it's just for someone to represent you and as mentioned, to like protect you. And normally when companies go on strike, they go through the unions first. So first, before there's a strike that happens for better wages, there will be negotiation from the union representative with the company. If there's no conclusion and the company doesn't want to increase the wages, then they will put in a proposal that the workers would like to go on strike, and then the strike will be approved, and then the workers can go on strike for better wages, but it goes all through the union. Strategic allies are businesses that combine their resources to undertake a project that will benefit all of them. They may share their expertise and information to benefit all members. These relationships help businesses to explore new markets and also gain competitive advantage. And then the next section we're looking at is our opportunities and threats that are faced by the business in the external environment. So this will be dived more into with business studies, but we have the SWOT analysis. Okay, SWOT, S-W-O-T. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So we're going to look at a few of them here. Businesses are faced with both opportunities and threats in the market environment in which they operate. Businesses do not have any control over these. However, they can influence them to some extent, as mentioned. So, the meaning of an opportunity. What is an opportunity? These are factors in the external environment that will contribute or are already contributing to the success of the business. Businesses need to constantly seek opportunities in their external environment in order to remain competitive. So, examples of opportunities. There is a decrease in taxes, closing down of a competitor's business, a decline in the interest rate, and favorable legislation by the government. So opportunities, remembering, opportunities and threats are external. Okay, same as the market environment, it is external. So if we're looking at an opportunity, so as mentioned, there's a competitor that's closing down. Okay, or we find out there might be a competitor that will be closing down. There's an opportunity for us to perhaps approach them and perhaps buy their business or merge the two businesses. So there's definitely an opportunity within that example. I know there was a shopping center that I used to go to, and I always found it so strange. So in the shopping center, there was a grocery store, and there were clothing stores, a bottle store, a pet store. So it was all different types of stores, a post office as well. And there were two hairdressers right next to each other, right next door. Separate companies, separate prices, next to each other. And I always thought in business studies that this was a perfect example of competition. You get no better competition than this. So when someone's walking up to those windows, they literally go, okay, do I go right? Do I go left? And I always thought, how are both of these businesses staying alive? Because for me, it was strange to have two hairdressers right next to each other. Even to have two hairdressers in the same shopping center, you know, it was just strange for me. But for years, these two hairdressers were both operating and both making a profit. And I thought, okay, something's working. Perhaps they both have something different and they both have clientele, so it's working. Anyway, a few years later, the company actually merged. So I'm not sure which one was which, but the one hairdresser bought over the other one and broke the wall in between, and then had much bigger premises, and then there was one hairdresser. So there's an opportunity there. So perhaps you find out that your competitor might be closing down or they're losing business, then to buy them over, or to perhaps have an agreement that they will be making use of your name, but they get 25%, 50% of the profits. So that is an opportunity there. The meaning of threats. Threats are any factors in the external environment that will stand in the way or are already standing in the way of businesses achieving their goals. Businesses have a challenge of constantly identifying threats in the external environment and devising strategies to turn them into opportunities. Otherwise, they will not be successful. So, a silly example for this one too. Most garages have a little grocery / quick stop shop. So I thought it was quite amazing a few years ago when BP actually got Pick and Pay Express as their grocery store. So now if people are looking for groceries, and it was 24/7, which also made it amazing. If they're looking for groceries, but it's 8 o'clock at night and all the grocery stores have closed, they can go to Pick and Pay Express. And the prices are very much the same. There are a few small changes. I think bread is like 1 or 2 rand more expensive. Some of their chips are also slightly expensive. But if it's at 10 o'clock at night and if you feel like going for an ice cream or you feel like buying something, but you know, we all know that the garage shops can be a little bit pricey, then you go to Pick and Pay Express. And I always thought that's amazing. And then you could get your Pick and Pay Smart Shopper points there too. So that creates a threat for the other garages. And then what started happening was now you can swipe with your loyalty cards at the different garages to earn points at, I know the one is Dischem, there's Pick and Pay, and there's a few others. I can't remember them right now, but there's a few others as well. So that, again, to remain competitive. So what can start off as a threat can turn into an opportunity, if that makes sense. So examples of threats. There's an increase in taxes, new businesses entering the market, increase in interest rates, and changes in government legislation. These are threats. Businesses need to identify the opportunities and the threats in the environment by conducting a SWOT analysis. So just an extra additional part here that I've added. So when we're looking at the opportunities, here's more examples. There's a decrease in the competition, reliable suppliers, decreased taxes, favorable government legislation, threats, new businesses entering the markets, shortage of suppliers, industrial action, and increased taxes and inflation. Thinking strategically in this way will help a business to remain successful. I'll also mention an opportunity that I had with my YouTube channel. So when I started YouTube, I started for the purpose of helping students and assisting students with business studies, just so that once they've gone to class, they can go and watch a video with different examples, someone explaining it differently, because all teachers have different teaching methods, of course. And just as maybe a revision. I know there are some students that solely use my videos for their information. Some use it as revision. Some use it as just like a secondary resource. And that was the purpose of my channel. Once I saw my channel growing, and I also noticed that there aren't a lot of competitors on YouTube that are producing videos for business studies, I then saw that opportunity and decided to go for it. So there's a perfect example. And then here is an example of what a SWOT analysis looks like. So we've got our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. As you can see, the S and the W are internal, and the O and the T, as mentioned, are external. So there you're going to write down all of your strengths and weaknesses. And then here's just a nice little diagram. If it were me, I would definitely just sketch this diagram. It's quite nice. It's a little recap in a mind map form of everything that we've gone through, and it looks like a little flower. I think it's quite cute. So you're more than welcome to pause the video at this stage and jot that down and just briefly read over that. And then we've reached the end of the video. So here are the two resources that I mentioned in the beginning of the video that I made use of. If you do follow these two links, which I've put in my description below, you will have access to the exact study guides that I have made use of for the slides in this video. I would just like to say thank you for watching my video. Thank you again for the support. I can't thank my subscribers and my viewers enough for the support that I've been receiving on my channel. I am so grateful and so blessed. Thank you so much. And I check it every day, sometimes obsessively, of how much it's growing. And it literally is growing by the day and by the week. And I'm so happy. I'm also so happy to see how my videos have been impacting my subscribers and my viewers. And I wish you all the best for the rest of the exams to come. And may you enjoy the holidays that are coming up. I will still be uploading each week. So if you want to do some revision during the holidays, you're more than welcome to. But I would encourage you all to just take a little rest, take a break, put your feet up, let your hair down, and just enjoy your break away. And then I can't wait for you guys to see you guys in my next videos for term 2. Bye for now.